Hi, I welcome you all in YuktMind's unique initiative 10 Minutes and Newspaper Done. In this video, we'll be covering today's, that is March 6th, the Hindu newspaper from prelims as well as mains point of view for UPSC CSC. You can download the PDF of this discussion from our Telegram channel, the link of which is given in description below. In this video, we'll be covering 7 news, starting with India-Maldives ties, green jobs and the problem of gender disparity, deprivileging bribe, Maharashtra's latest Maratha quota law, and why did Google delist some Indian apps from Play Store? News on India's health centers, and final news on collision of Philippine and Chinese vessels in disputed South China Sea. The first news. Days after a technical team from India arrived in the Maldives to replace troops that President Mohammad Mizu wanted removed, the Maldivian Defense Ministry announced signing a military pact with China. Maldives and China on March 4th of 2024 signed an agreement on China's provision of military assistance gratis to the Republic of Maldives, fostering stronger bilateral ties. The two sides also held bilateral talks on military cooperation. The development is in line with the two countries agreeing to elevate China-Maldives relations to a comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership during Mr. Mizu's 5-day state visit to China in January. It also coincides with New Delhi's apparent compromise with Mali, agreeing to withdraw its troops stationed in the island nation, instead replacing them with a technical team to help operate India-gifted aircraft. India was the largest source market last year for Maldivian tourism, but has since moved to the sixth spot following the Boycott Maldives campaign that went viral on Indian social media earlier this year. Second news. The transition to low carbon development has the potential to add about 35 million green jobs in India by 2047. The International Labour Organization defines green jobs as decent jobs that contribute to preservation or restoration of the environment. Many of these span across sectors such as manufacturing, construction, renewable energy, energy efficiency, and automobiles, which traditionally saw a lower representation of women. Globally, men are likely to transition to green jobs faster than women. Even as India increased its renewable energy capacity by 250% between 2015 to 21, women comprised merely 11% of workers in the solar rooftop sector. The annual survey of industries of 2019-20 shows that women workers are mostly concentrated in industries such as apparel, textile, leather, food, and tobacco. A study in 2023 by Skill Councils for Green Jobs indicated that 85% of the training for green skills was imparted to men, while 90% of women believed that social norms limited their participation in training for green jobs. The restricted social norms include factors such as the belief that women are unsuitable for certain technical roles, safety concerns, lower representation in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, that is, STEM subjects, and familial constraints. Increasing women's representation in green jobs has several benefits. Like in the short run, it can address the general biases in the Indian labor market and improve women's labor force participation rates. In the long run, this can contribute to improving women's agency and their empowerment by creating economic, technical, and social opportunities. There is limited data to understand the landscape of women's work for green jobs in India. Mapping emerging areas for green growth and collecting gender disaggregated data on green jobs could be the starting point to improve women's participation. Recently, in a critical stride towards justice and inclusivity in transition planning, COP28's high level dialogue launched Gender Responsive Just Transitions and Climate Action Partnership, with a focus on improved data, targeted finance, and skill development. Gender focused financial policies and products such as collateral free lending, financial literacy training, and building supportive networks are crucial steps to unlock their potential. A gender just transition demands a multi pronged strategy that focuses on employment, social protection, reduces the burden of care work, and enables skill development. Partnerships across government, private sector, and other stakeholders are necessary to leverage the benefits of innovation, technology, and finance for women entrepreneurs and workers. Third news. The artificial distinction that the Supreme Court of India made over 25 years ago between bribe givers and bribe takers in the infamous JMM bribery case between those who paid crores of rupees to MPs for voting in favor of the PV Narasimha Rao government in a no confidence motion were to be prosecuted for corruption, but those who took the money were immune from prosecution has now been done away. The court has corrected this anomaly in the law related to parliamentary privileges by holding that there can be no immunity for a member of parliament or a state legislature against a bribery charge in connection with a vote or speech in the legislature. The court has made it clear that the parliamentary privilege enshrined in Article 105 and Article 194 is aimed at protecting the freedom of speech and independence of the legislators in their functioning in the House and cannot extend to bribery as it is not essential to the casting of the vote or in deciding how to cast it. Fourth news. On February 20th, the Maharashtra Assembly unanimously passed a bill granting 10% reservation in education and government jobs to the Maratha community. However, activists have claimed that the new legislation is a betrayal of the community and instead seek a Maratha quota carved out from the existing reservation for the other backward classes category. So, what does the new bill entail? The bill does not disturb the existing OBC quota and is distinct from the Maharashtra government's earlier notification on the issuance of Kunbi caste certificates to eligible Marathas for their inclusion within the OBC category. The law has now been formulated based on a report by Justice retired Sunil B. Shukre led Maharashtra State Backward Class Commission, which opined that exceptional circumstances and extraordinary situations justify granting reservation to the community beyond the Supreme Court approved 50% limit. Maharashtra already has 52% reservations. The 10% economically weaker sections reservation is also applicable to the state, making the total reservation pool around 72% with the inclusion of the new quota. The Maharashtra government on November 30th of 2018 implemented the Maharashtra State Reservation for Socially and Educationally Backward Classes Act of 2018, which provided the Maratha 16% quota overall in education and government jobs. However, in May 2021, a five-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court in Jai Shri Lakshman Rao Patil versus Chief Minister Maharashtra struck it down and held that there were no exceptional circumstances that merit the government breaching the 50% ceiling limit to bestow quota benefits to the Maratha community. According to legal experts, the current legislation is unlikely to pass judicial scrutiny because to breach the SC ordained 50% reservation cap, exceptional circumstances need to be shown. Fifth news. On 1st March, Google announced that it was pulling the apps of almost a dozen Indian firms out of its marketplace for Android apps. While the announcement seemed sudden, it was preceded by years of wrangling between the search giant and Indian companies, with proceedings in the Madras High Court and the Supreme Court. After the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology intervened, the apps were restored on 4th March, but the issue remains unresolved. So, what is the problem? At the heart of the issue is the Google's platform fees. For all in app purchases that involve a purely digital service, such as an e-book purchase or an OTT streaming subscription, Google collects a fee of anywhere between 11 to 30% per transaction. So, as per Rohit Kumar, founder of the public policy firm The Quantum Hub, while Google should definitely be able to charge a fee for creating and maintaining the App Store ecosystem, the main contention is the size of the fee. The Competition Commission of India, that is CCI, had in 2022 fined Google around rupees 936 crore for its Play Store policies. So, according to experts, what is required is regulation to increase competition in the App Store market. This should involve removing barriers to the adoption of other app stores by placing restrictions on arrangements that Google makes with phone manufacturers to set defaults and give primacy to its own apps, and allowing side loading for apps to be downloaded via websites. 6th news. Jean Reyes, Ritika Khera, Risham Malhotra have published a paper titled The Changing State of Health Centers in North India in Economic and Political Weekly of 2024. In this paper, the authors counter and complicate the prevailing narrative of collapse of India's health centers. Their survey shows a pattern of improving quality and utilization of services over time. But the nature of progress is largely cosmetic, and the pace of improvement remains far from adequate. Almost 2 lakh in number, India's health centers are conceptualized as a three-tier system. Sub-centers, which are later renamed as health and wellness centers, public health centers, called PHCs, the community health centers, CHCs. Last year's economic survey showed that in the absence of proper insurance and affordable services, almost half of all health spending in India is still paid by patients themselves, pushing many households into poverty. The answer to social and health inequity may lie in accelerating the expansion and improvement of health centers. Localized healthcare is a much better way of dealing with most health problems than to let patients lose on larger public hospitals or the private sector. The researchers studied the performance of five states, namely Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, and Rajasthan. Himachal Pradesh was a trailblazer with functional centers serving 83% of its population, but states like Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan have introduced valuable initiatives. On the other hand, the twin states of Bihar and Jharkhand presented a contrasting narrative, with Bihar the apparent laggard. On average, contrary to popular belief, there is evidence of functionality across primary health centers. The centers are generally open during working hours, patients are being treated, basic facilities are in place, and healthcare is more or less free except in Bihar. So, what has changed? The share of health expenditure in the union budget increased drastically, coupled with the introduction of National Rural Health Mission. India's flagship Ayushman Bharat program, launched with the vision of achieving universal health coverage, in 2018 introduced a health insurance component called PMJ and a public provision component through health and wellness centers. State specific schemes launched by Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh boosted their performance. However, the study has said these improvements are modest only. The centers are still grossly underutilized. There is high staff absenteeism, the number of patients per day is low, services are limited and quite likely of poor quality. The health workers interviewed listed challenges that remain neglected, that is, lack of staff, irregular flow of funds, lack of toilet facilities, no transport or residential facilities, no drugs or functional testing equipment, and the growing burden of both online and on field work. The study also documented social discrimination in health centers. Some upper caste doctors had disparaging attitude towards marginalized communities, and upper caste families routinely disrespected Dalit ANMs. However, researchers also made a rare mention of the critical role women play in rural health settings. ANMs and ASHA worked in grim environments with centers lacking running water and toilets. Still, they tend to perform much better than the system in which they work. The researchers echoed demands made by frontline health workers, that is, to enhance investment in this veritable army of valuable health workers so that women can reap the recognition or rewards of their work. Now, the final news of the day. The Chinese Coast Guard ships and accompanying vessels blocked the Philippine Coast Guard and supply vessels of the disputed Second Thomas Shoal of disputed South China Sea and executed dangerous maneuvers that caused two minor collisions between the Chinese ships and two of the Philippine vessels. Together with Philippines, China also claims a shoal lying off the western Philippines and has surrounded the atoll with Coast Guard, Navy, and other ships to press its claims and prevent Filipino forces from delivering construction materials to fortify the Sierra Madre in a decades-long standoff. Now, a past year prelims question of UPSC CSC, which was asked in 2020. With reference to foreign direct investment in India, which one of the following is considered its major characteristic? The options are: option A, it is the investment through capital instruments, essentially in a listed company. Option B, it is a largely non-debt creating capital flow. Option C, it is the investment which involves debt servicing. Option D, it is the investment made by foreign institutional investors in government securities. The correct answer is, it is largely non-debt creating capital flow. Thank you for watching this video. You can download the PDF of this discussion from our Telegram channel, the link of which is given in the description below. Thank you.